work here. We already prayed, so we're in Daniel chapter 5 this morning. I'm your host, Soshi, with Discovery Chapter Channel. I'm using the Amplified Bible, so if you want to follow along, go ahead. Belshazzar, if I can read this morning, the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded that the golden and silver vessels which Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem, be brought to him, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. I didn't know Nebuchadnezzar had concubines. Well, it was actually a natural practice with kings and rulers in the Bible times, Bible days. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the Lord's house, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, of silver, of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour, the fingers of a man's hand came out and wrote near the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. The king saw part of his hand that wrote. Then the king's face was changed in him, and his thoughts troubled him, and the joints of his thighs were loosened, and his knees struck one against another. The king cried aloud. Okay, look, they're playing my Bible now. I don't know how they hack my phone, y'all. I'm not even like, I don't have internet on. You know what I'm saying? Like, somehow they're able to hack your phone here. You might have to go to a hard copy. So where do we leave off here? Give me 1 second, you guys. They play around, these devils, man. Hold on, let me get a hard copy of the Bible here. We're just going to use the hard copy. This way, when they can't do nothing electronically, how they hack. It's amazing that they can also get to your phone when you're not online. That is kind of amazing technology there. I think we left off at 7, right? You're trying to make me like lose my place or lose my mind here in a sense. These devils, man. There's some real wicked devils out there, y'all. Wicked. This is beyond evil here. What they're doing. Let's see here. Okay, we left off at 5, so we'll just start from 5. So I have a hard copy. We're going to switch to the NIV instead of the Amplified, alright? So this way they can't hack it. Suddenly the fingers of human hands appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall near the lampstand in the royal palace. The king watched the hand as it wrote. His face turned pale, and he was so frightened that his knees knocked together and his legs gave away. The king called out for the enchanters, astrologers, and diviners to be brought, and said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever reads these writings and tells me what it means to be clothed in purple, have a gold chain placed around his neck. He'll be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. So I don't know why we're still on the subject of this, King Nebuchadnezzar's dream was already interpreted. Obviously, he's obsessed with this dream for some reason. He's still talking about it. That's what happens when you're obsessed with something. You just keep talking about it over and over again. Over and over again. There's no end to it. Over and over again. You're obsessed, obviously, with this vision or dream that you have. We already told you what it meant, Nebuchadnezzar, but you keep going about it. Okay? The question is, to me, is why does God allow these evil, obsessed men to keep going on and living? Why don't God just strike them right there where they're at with lightning or something, with fire from heaven like He did in the other books of the Bible you read? For some reason, God tolerates tyrannical men these days, Nazis, Adolf Hitlers these days. Who knows why He does? We know that these people are obsessed with, they have obsessions. They like to dwell in things, and, they don't like to move on here. They keep talking about the same thing over and over again. We're like, that's tiring, man, to talk about the same thing over and over again. Move on here, verse 8. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or tell the king what it meant. So King Belshazzar became even more terrified, and his face grew more pale. Were baffled. The queen, hearing the voices of the king and his nobles, came into the banquet hall. "O king, live forever," she said. "Don't be alarmed. Don't look so pale. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. At the time of your father, he was found to have insight and intelligence and wisdom like that of the gods. King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king." So it looks like we're actually talking about Nebuchadnezzar's son here, Belshazzar. We weren't talking about Nebuchadnezzar. So, I read that wrong in a sense. I thought we were talking about Nebuchadnezzar. Turns out we're just talking about his son now. So obviously Nebuchadnezzar has passed, and now his son is in charge. Or one of his sons took over the kingdom. That's what usually happens in a royal family. Okay? When you're part of a royal family, if you were a king, one of your sons takes over the royal palace. Now you're king. Anyhow, verse 11. We didn't finish verse 11. "King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, I say appointed him chief of the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and diviners. This man Daniel, whom the king called Belshazzar, was found to have a keen mind and knowledge and understanding, and also the ability to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what that writing means." Now, the Bible is easy to read, right, but also complex in a sense. So I read that wrong again. We're actually reading about Daniel. We read between the lines here. And I have the Holy Spirit to help me, chew these pieces of steak that we're trying to chew on here. Without the Holy Spirit with you, you can just read the Bible and be like, "Oh, this is a fairy tale." But thank God we have the Holy Spirit over here to help us, to assist us here. And that actually what the Holy Spirit just informed me here is we're actually talking about Daniel, not King Nebuchadnezzar's son. Okay? Call for Daniel. He will tell you what the writing means. Now so the question is King Nebuchadnezzar still alive? We don't know yet. We don't know if he's still alive. But we know that there might be somebody else in charge of Babylon now. So why are we calling Daniel king? Is there a reason why we're calling him king here? He's just an interpreter. That's all he is, really, besides a prophet of God. Did he take over Babylon? That's the question mark. Did he? So Daniel was brought before the king, and the king said to him, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles my father, the king, brought from Judah? I have learned that the Spirit of God is in you, and that you have insight, intelligence, and this writing, tell me what it means." in this writing, can you tell me what it means? But they cannot explain it. Now I have heard that you are able to give interpretations to solve difficult problems. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you'll be clothed in purple and have a gold chain placed around your neck, and you'll be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Gold chain. What's it with gold chains, man? You know, gold is a symbol of, you know, expense. Like, you know, if you had a gold chain around your neck in those days, you were doing pretty good in terms of title there. And kings like to wear gold, by the way. They like gold. You see that in other writings in the Bible, whether kings went lavish with their palaces, you know, just like gold statues. You saw that with Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue, 90 feet gold statue, trying to get people to worship it, you know. So, you know, so Daniel's not actually the king, but he'll be the third king, the third highest rank in the lands of Babylon. It's kind of like our government. We have the president, we have the vice president. The president is the king, the vice president is second in command. And then you have the Secretary of State, I think, is the next in line there. So if anything happens to these two guys, the Secretary of State becomes president. So that's the third highest position in government right now in the lands. So not Nebuchadnezzar, but Daniel would be the Secretary of State, according to the writings here. Verse 17. Then Daniel answered the king, "You may keep your gifts for yourself and give your rewards to someone else. Nevertheless, I will read the writing for the king and tell him what it means. O king, the Most High God gave your father Nebuchadnezzar sovereignty and greatness and glory and splendor because of the high position he gave him. All the peoples and nations and men of every language dreaded and feared him." Now look, I don't know why Nebuchadnezzar is you know, looked highly exalted upon when he slaughtered millions or thousands of Jews in the book of Jeremiah. Okay, well, he's not really a saint here in a sense, but yeah, we talk about him like he's a great man or something. He's just another little Hitler, you know, if you read his activities, you know. But God I think, is the best interest to even preserve these men in a sense. I don't know why, but He does. Okay, because they can be instruments of His wrath in this sense. So Nebuchadnezzar slaughtered thousands of Jews because those Jews weren't aligned with what God was telling them to do. See, God is not what you call it. There's no favoritism in God. He doesn't favor a group of people over another. He will actually also teach Jews a lesson. He will slaughter them if He has to. Okay, and He used Nebuchadnezzar to do it. You saw that, and you read that in Jeremiah. So, you know, moving on here. O King, the Most High God, gave your father Nebuchadnezzar sovereignty and greatness, glory, and splendor because of the high position He gave him. All the peoples and nations and men of every language dreaded and feared him. Those the king wanted to put to death, he put to death. Those he wanted to spare, he spared. Those he wanted to promote, he promoted. Those he wanted to humble, he humbled. But when his heart became arrogant and hardened, there you go. That's what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. Pride, he was disposed from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven away from people and given the mind of an animal. Is that what happened to Nebuchadnezzar? Is he out there in the woods somewhere from his throne? You know, that's a good question. We don't know yet. We gotta read on here. He was driven away. Actually, no. We're on verse. No, we didn't finish verse 2 or 21. Actually, He lived with the wild donkeys and ate grass like cattle, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he had knowledge that the Most High God is sovereign over the kingdoms of men, and sets over them anyone he wishes. But you, his son, I'm getting hiccups for some reason. Every time I read the Bible, I'm starting to get the hiccups. Seems like they'd use something to cause you hiccups here. But you, his son, O Belhazar, have not humbled yourself, though you knew all this. Instead, you have set yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You had all the goblets from his temple brought to you, and you and your nobles, your wives, and your concubines drank wine from them. You praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which cannot see or hear or understand. But you did not honor the God who holds his hand, your life in all your ways. Therefore he sent the hand that wrote this inscription. The inscription here. This is what the inscription that was written. So this I'm going to read you the exact inscription here. It's M-E-N-E again, and then T-E-K-E-L, and then P-A-R-S-I-N. So I'll read it to you. Mean, tekel, parson. What does that mean here? This is what these words mean. Mean, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Perez, Parson, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then at Belhazar's command, Daniel was clothed in purple. A gold chain was placed around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. So what happened? No one could read those words except Daniel, the interpreter. He interpreted it for the king. Now he's got the third highest position in government in the day right now. He is the Secretary of State right now. Then at Belhazar's command, actually no, verse 30. This is the last verse for chapter 5 here, y'all. The very night Belhazar, king of Babylon, the king of the Babylonians, was slain, and Daniel the Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 66.